wife's brother, which I wasn't married at the time, and we were dating, down at the old country store that I mentioned earlier, he was sitting on the bench out on the porch on Saturday morning, and I drove up in the car, and he was sitting there with his head dropped down, and I said, "What in the world is wrong with you today?" He said, "I got my draft notice a while ago." I kind of laughed at him a little bit. I shouldn't have, but I did. And I went on home, and I got out of the car, and my mother come to the back door, and she said, "Go to the mailbox before you come to the house." So I went to the mailbox, and my draft notice was in the mailbox. It broke her heart and didn't make me feel good either. I knew I had to go. There was 5 of us that went in the same day. We went through basic together, me and Gene's brother and the other 3 I had went to school with. And we went in to Fort Campbell, pulled our basic together, and then we separated. I went to Fort Carson, Colorado. I think my brother-in-law went to New Jersey. It's different places. Out of the 5, there was 3 of us went to Vietnam. My brother-in-law went to Germany. One of them stayed in the States. He didn't go overseas at all. He was lucky. But now, out of the 5 that went in the same day I went in, there's only 2 of us left. That is me and my wife's brother. We're the only 2 left. One of them, the last one, passed away this past summer. And I went to school with him. Well, I went to school with all of them. I asked Gene's brother, when Ronald passed away, I said, "Which one of us is going to be next?" He said, "I don't know." But he's about 2 years older than me. He's a diabetic, bad. He got other issues too. I've got heart issues and other issues too. So it'll depend on the good Lord as to which one goes first. We started in at Long Bend.
No, like literally your aircraft is coming in, right?
Oh.
If you recall.
We started in at Long Bend and couldn't land because they were boarding the airstrip. And we had to go back up and go down to Cameron Bay. When we got to Cameron Bay and the doors opened to the plane, it was an awful stifling odor. It was a heat-related rush, the humidity. It wasn't raining when we got there, but I'm thinking we just left a place that we couldn't land. I said, "These people are trying to kill me before I even get off the plane." Cameron Bay hadn't been hit at that time, so we were lucky there. I didn't know what to expect. We stayed all night at Cameron Bay. The next morning, we got on a deuce and a half and started north up to Cu Chi. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I really didn't know what to expect. Everything was going in chaos as far as I was concerned because I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know if the convoy was going to be hit. I didn't know if we were going to make it up there, and we did. We made it okay.
Were the guys talking to each other at this point?
Some. It was basically, where are we going? What are we going to be doing? Why are we going? Why, it was just trying to figure out really what was actually going to happen the next 10 or 12 minutes from now, or tomorrow, or tonight. When we got up close to the base camp, Cu Chi, there was an awful odor. I mean, awful. And the people that were driving knew what it was and didn't have no top on the thing, didn't have no top over them. It was open. And somebody asked him, said, "What is that odor?" And he said, "Well, when we get up a little closer, you will see." When we got up close to the entrance to the base camp, there was a hanging North Vietnamese soldier that had decayed to the point that his nickname was Stinking Charlie. And he did. He lived up to his nickname. But he had been caught and brought in, and somebody hung him.
And why do you think they let him stay there if it was such a stench?
It was a deterrent to, like it was in Vietnam. It wasn't like it was in Germany, or there was no front lines. You were surrounded every day by North Vietnamese. They were even working for us on base camp, which at the time we didn't know that. It was a deterrent to them not to take part in the North Vietnamese actions against us, because this is what will happen to you. And they eventually took him down, or he fell down, or whatever. But that's what that was for. It was a deterrent for them not to side with the North Vietnamese. It might have been a cruel way to do it, but we were in a war.
War is vile.
Yeah. I remember one night when I first got there, before I got the other position, I was on bunker line that night, and there was a tree outside the base camp a little ways, not a great deal, but a little ways. We had night vision, and our bunker was the one next to the main gate, and he was set up, and there was a Vietnamese got up in that tree and sat there all night. He had no weapons on him that we could see. We could see the outline. Of course, night vision then wasn't like it is now. But we asked and asked and asked to take him out, because we knew he was up to something, we just didn't know what. He was a distraction. The next morning when we got up, you always check your bunker line to make sure everything's okay. All of our claymores were turned around facing us. If we had triggered the claymores, we'd have shot ourselves. He was a deterrent, and that evidently was his job for the night, was to sit in that tree. And when daylight come, he was gone. And they wouldn't let us take him out. He didn't have no weapons on him or anything, but that's why he was there.
He was a lure.
Yeah, so they could get in close to our bunker line and turn those claymores around and set up some booby traps. They set up a few booby traps. But luckily, we got that taken care of before anybody got hurt.
How did you get that taken care of?
The next morning, you go out and you check your bunker line and make sure everything's still intact for the next night coming up.
So you turned them back around?
Yeah, we turned them back around and set them back up and got them like they were supposed to be. But if we had set those claymores off, it would have got us. And that's the type of...
How do those work? Because I hear about them all the time, but I don't really know. I mean, I guess I could YouTube it.
A claymore is probably 4 or 5 inches on one side and maybe 6 inches across the front. And they're kind of half moon, so to speak. And when you set those things off, it's a lot of different shrapnel type stuff in those claymores, and it'll just flare out when you set it off. And if you're close enough, which you set them up close on the bunker line, so if they try to infiltrate, you got good coverage. But when they turned them around, they had the same coverage using our own weapons as we had against them. We were in a bunker. Some of us probably would have got hit. Others wouldn't have. But that's the way those things work. It's a good weapon to defend your bunker line or your position or whatever. It's a good weapon.
Yeah, I was listening to the Sean Ryan show interview with John Stryker Meyer. He's a Maccabee SOG, a friend of mine. I've interviewed him, and he has supported my mission over the years. And he was always talking about how they would have a remain overnight or rest overnight, and he would then say, "So we set up our claymores," and I didn't really understand what that was all about.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And then he also mentioned at one point in the interview, which blew my mind, because he was special forces. He was in that secret war, and he's just an amazing warrior. He got out of that war without a bullet wound.
I did.
He had shrapnel in him.
I had a little bit,
right?
but it was minor. It was minor.
Right. So perhaps he had shrapnel from an explosion like that, but amazing to have gotten out of it without a bullet wound. And you too, without a bullet wound?
I did get, I got shrapnel, 11 pieces, and they were small. They would have put me in for a Purple Heart, but I told them not to because the night we got hit, there was people, our people, laying everywhere. And we got hit that hard. I was very fortunate not to get no more than I did. So I said, no, don't put me in for a Purple Heart. And they didn't.
They should have anyway.
But,
you were wounded.
But you see people.
Do you still have shrapnel in you?
I got them all out.
You got them all out, okay.
And they were kind of like superficial. And I had 11 pieces. I got 2 in my chest, and the rest of them was my right arm and shoulder.
Gotcha.
And they wasn't deep, and they wasn't big. Just enough that you could see the blood and where it was at. And they got them out without any trouble. No stitches or anything. They're just real small pieces. But I said, no, don't put me in for a Purple Heart. Don't. And we were in base camp when that happened.
And what was that, a surprise attack?
Yeah, really. The Med Battalion, I was up north in downtown, and our unit was on this side of the runway where the fixed wings come in. The helipad was on the other side, and the Med Battalion was on the same side they were on. And the Med Battalion always got the good movies and everything. So I told my lieutenant colonel, I said, if you don't have anything going right now, I said, there's a good movie on over at the Med Battalion. He said, well, go ahead. And I had a radio. He said, and I went over in the Jeep, and he said, if I need you, I'll call you. And we were watching that movie, and the movie was, I can't remember the name of it now, but the day room was here, and people were in there, whatever, and some were out watching the movie, and I was out watching the movie, and it was John Wayne, and he was throwing grenades across a river, a creek, or whatever it was, at the enemy. And about the time he drew back and threw that grenade, when that grenade hit on the movie, they hit us exactly the same time. And I was close to a bunker, and I hit the bunker, along with other people, but there was a lot that didn't make it. And as soon as it kind of settled down a little bit, I headed back over to my unit, and we got hit pretty hard that night. And it didn't matter what was going on. You could expect it at about any time, any night, any time. It didn't. Sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 11, 12, whatever. It just depends when the North got set up and decided to hit us. And the way they were getting their information on what to hit was those Vietnamese that were coming into the base camps and filling sandbags and working during the day was feeding the information back to them, because a lot of them worked for the North and worked for us during the day. And then they would line up. When I was up at downtown, every night we got hit, you could tell exactly what they were doing, because we had to have the lights on the tower for the planes if any come in, and they would be either on that side or this side. They never hit from either side. They always hit from that end or this end. And they would line up, and we figured out they were lining up on that light to direct the aircraft in, and then they would vary off to the left or to the right. And that's the side that got hit that night, just happened to be the Med Battalion that night. And the reason they tried the Med Battalion, take care of the wounded. Another thing is the helipad was over there. Dismantle it, just do the aircraft where you can't get them in the air. And they got hit more than we did, because they knew where we were at, they knew where they were at. So they'd take the Med Battalion, they'd take the helipad, because they couldn't get the choppers up real quick. Didn't know which ones had been hit, which ones wasn't. And they were smart. They were actually smart. But it was a long, drawn-out war that we couldn't win. We could have. We was not let win. I have heard a quote from a Vietnamese general since then, that if we had kept the bombing up of the North, they would have surrendered in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they stopped it 2 weeks prior. They had already made the decision that if this keeps up, we're going to surrender. But we stopped it 2 weeks before they had made the date to give up.
And it's widely believed that y'all could have gone in and finished the war in 3 months with the power that the United States had.
Yeah, we had the
Allies.
equipment, we had the manpower,
Right.
we had the knowledge. We could have finished it.
You weren't allowed to hit Hanoi. You weren't allowed to do this, that, and the other thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We could have finished it in no time, but we just wasn't let fight a war that we should have been let. We should have been turned loose. But
well, and that's one of the things that I learned when I was doing the research for The Bravest Generation, is World War II was, and the other wars prior to were all total war doctrines. So Congress has to approve everything. And it was approved as a total war doctrine. You go do what you got to do. Just come home with as victors. We're not going to scrutinize over everything. Stay within the Geneva Accord. Stay within the Geneva Convention, and you're good. Vietnam, it was a limited war doctrine. You were not given total autonomy and get the job done. It was limited war, so you had to get approval for every major attack. And Lyndon Johnson is quoted as having said, "They can't bomb an outhouse without my permission."
Exactly.
And he was saying that with, like very braggadocious, like I'm in control and all that. But in reality, that showed how restricted you all were.
It was a money-making war for a lot of people here. Johnson's wife was owner of Pacific Architect and Engineers. They had all of the equipment. And when I say equipment, I'm saying like generators and that type of thing. They didn't want it to end because it was putting money back in their pocket. It was killing American soldiers to make them wealthy. I remember one night, the little village right outside of our base camp, they were firing on us from that base camp, from that village. And our second in command, as far as the base commander, was in charge that night. The commander was gone to whatever. And I heard this on my radio, it was real plain. He got a call that said, "They're firing at us from inside that village. What do we do?" He said, "Burn it, we'll build it back tomorrow." He got in trouble for that. He got in bad trouble. But we did what he said do, and it ended it. It kept a lot of American soldiers from getting killed.
Why did he get in trouble for that?
Because he had made the decision to take the village out. If they were civilians in that village, and they had already gotten out before they got killed. What we were trying to do was get rid of the North Vietnamese that were operating out of that village. And like Cu Chi, it was a tunnel complex. They could pop up out of a tunnel, fire a couple of mortar rounds at you, and right back down the tunnel, and somebody else over there could do the same thing, and it was just a rotation type thing for them. They used the tunnels that we actually had to go in and clear out. I wasn't a tunnel rat, but a lot of my buddies were. And the next morning you had to hit the tunnels and clear everything out, which then most of them were already gone. Sometimes there were some still in there. A lot of our people got killed clearing those tunnels out. And in those tunnels, you may have heard the term a two-stepper snake. They would catch those things, and there were different ledges in those tunnels. You go in, and there'd be a ledge here, and further there'd be another ledge or whatever. They would place those things up on a ledge, and this is information that I got from the tunnel rats. You'd be going through there on the bottom level of that tunnel, and the old snake would reach out and get you on the head, arm, whatever. You didn't make it out. And that's the type of people we were fighting. Booby traps. They would dig a hole in the ground big enough for you to step in. they would put pieces of bamboo that were sharpened, real sharp on the end, and they would put those down in the hole and pull them back up to where they would be in place, pointed down.
The punji sticks? Are you, the punji sticks?
Yeah, yeah. And on the ends of those, they would have human excrement. When you stepped in one of those things, and I was lucky enough not to ever do it, when you stepped in one, you didn't pull your foot back out. You stood there and let your buddy get that away from your foot before you, because if you pulled your foot back up, then you had a bunch of infectious type material in your system. And that their theory was that if they wounded an American soldier, it was better from their point of view to do that rather than to kill one, because if you've got a wounded American soldier, it takes 7 people to take care of him, or if he's dead, those 7 can come back at them, and that was their theory.
What a great point. I haven't heard that yet.
And it worked. I mean, you've got a soldier there with a foot full of booby traps with human excrement on them, and somebody's got to take care of him. Well, you've got a medic per platoon.
Well,
He's
2
over
people
here trying
to carry him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes at least 2 people to carry him out, maybe more, depending on the size. And you got to get a chopper in to fly them out and get them back to base camp. There again, you stand a chance on the chopper getting shot down where you're looking at 4 people out right there, 2 pilots, a pilot and a co-pilot, and the 2 gunners. They knew what they were doing. They had a lot of sophisticated equipment. They didn't have nothing like what we had. We could have ended it quick, but we just wasn't given the opportunity.
You weren't allowed.
It was a long, but yet a short year for me.
It was 1 year? You were there 12 months?
I stayed 363 days. I got out 2 days early.
For good behavior? For good behavior?
No, it just happened. It just happened that I got on a flight that was leaving when it was.
What was that like being a short timer?
Oh, you started counting the days from the day you get there, and when you get down to like the 30 days, I mean, you start marking them off, and you say, "Okay, one more, get one more, get one more, get one more," and finally you get down. Like me, I got down to I had 2 days left, and they called me in. Well, I mean, I was privileged, I'll tell you that. They called me into battalion headquarters, and the captain said to go in and report to the colonel. I thought I'd done something. He wouldn't tell me why. And I went in and reported to him, and he said, "George," he said, "I think you've come down on orders to leave." I didn't know it till then. I said, "Yes." Yeah, I did know it too, because I'd already cleared post. I just didn't know the day. And he said, you're down on orders to leave. I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You're supposed to go down by convoy in a couple of days," whatever it was. And I said, "Yes, sir, I think so." He said, "You're not going by convoy." He said, "When you get ready to leave," he said, "you come up here and I'll send a driver with you. You go down, you get on my chopper, and you go by chopper." He said, "I'm not taking a chance on you getting killed by convoy." I was very fortunate, very fortunate.
Was that fairly common that men
Not
going
usually.
home on the convoy? No, that men going on the convoy would get ambushed?
Sometimes, yes, sometimes you would. But he would, and I had, even before him, I had a lieutenant colonel then that I was working directly with, and he left probably 3, maybe 4 months before I did. He called me in one morning, and he said, "I've come down on orders," and he said his replacement will be here whenever. He said, "I'm going to the Pentagon." He said, "I can take you with me." I said, do I have to give you an answer right now? He said, no. I said, you got a few days yet. So I thought about it, and I was thinking, Jean's at home. We're planning on getting married. If I go to the Pentagon, she won't know anybody. She'll be more or less limited in her acquaintances, so to speak. And I made the decision, no, I'm not going. So I went in and told him. I said, I appreciate it, but I said, I'm taking a chance on not going because I had some time left over there. But I said, I can't do it. I said, I'm not going. I told him why. And he said, well, that's understandable. Later on in years, after, well, as a matter of fact, after we lived where I do now, I hadn't had no contact with him since I left Vietnam, since he left and since I left. We got a letter in the mail one day from a Captain Sharp. That was his last name, Colonel Sharp. Nice guy, nice as he could be. I got a letter from a Captain Sharp. It was his daughter. She was in the service at the time, and evidently he had left a list of people that when he passed away, he wanted her to contact. I've got that letter at the house, but I don't know where it's at. Jean took care of everything then because I was working away and whatever. I can't make myself go through a lot of the stuff that I can't find. I did get into my computer the other day. I got somebody else to do that for me. I'm not a computer whiz. But I did get into the computer, and I got a lot of stuff that she had written and put in there, all of her pictures, and there's a bunch of them. I haven't been back to it since the guy got into it for me, but I'm planning on doing that sometime. Right. At least I can now. Mm-hmm. But there's slides that I made while I was in Vietnam that I would like to have had them transferred to a disk so I could just view them anytime. I can't find them because she said, and I probably did, when I looked at a few of them that night, I had a bad night, which that was quite frequent anyway, but she said it's worse. I don't know how she could tell, but before she passed away, if I was having a bad night, she'd wake me up. And it'd take me a second to realize what was going on. But she'd just shake me a little bit and wake me up. And in just a few seconds, I realized, what was going on. I don't have that anymore. She's not there. But that's what the good Lord wanted. So I accepted. I'll never forget her. I never will.
Of course not. And at one point, you're going to be back with her.
Yeah.
But she's waiting patiently.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know where she's at. I know who she's with.
Yeah.
She's with her mom and daddy and her siblings. She's with my brother and my mom and dad. And I know she's happy.
Yeah. And she's with Jesus.
I know she is. At night, our dog that she trained, the medical alert dog, I'll be sitting in my chair watching TV or whatever, maybe on Facebook or something, and he's got a spot that he lays where he can see down the hall, and that's just his spot. And he'll be laying there and look like he's sound asleep. And he'll raise his head up and look down the hall. He'll wag his tail about 3 times, and he'll lay back down. I know what that is. I know what it is.
He senses Jean.
Yeah.
That's comforting.
And they say that you'll eventually have a dream about your partner that you've lost. Mm-hmm. I haven't. I don't know why, but I haven't. Maybe someday. So maybe she's waiting on me and I'm waiting on the time to go.
Mm-hmm. Find the race.
If you were in a rifle platoon, which most infantry was, if you had a platoon sergeant that got killed and you were next in line, you stepped up in his position. And I did that. I hate that it happened that way because another one of my comrades had got killed. But I had to step up because I had more rank than some of the other people in our platoon. I guess you could say that, and I'll say this, I kind of went from the fire back in the frying pan. It's usually in reverse. I was a sniper for about 2.5 months when I first got there. It was rough. We had people like the Laotian general that were feeding us information on the North Vietnamese that we needed to pursue. And it got to be more than I could bear. And I knew on subject number 6, I pulled off with my shot. I hit him. Oh. But I didn't hit him in the head, I hit him in the chest. I knew then that the next shot could be for me. I couldn't do it anymore. They pulled me back, and one of the worst things, probably that, and maybe the best, I don't know, they put me a platoon sergeant. They moved me into platoon sergeant's position. Right out front again. But the difference was, to me, when you're looking through high-powered optics at a subject that you were supposed to be taking out, no matter how small of an instance you see that subject, and it imprints their face on your mind. When you were in a rifle platoon, you do not see that face in the same light that you did then. I see those faces every night. I can't shake it. My psych doctor says you never will. But I deal with it.
What made you pull off on that last one, on subject number 6?
I don't know exactly. It's just the fact that when I look through the scope, I could probably relate seeing him to the other 5 prior. And I guess for an instance in my mind, I said, this is it. The next shot may be coming to me. I didn't want to take him out. It was my job to do that. And even I didn't take the headshot. I pulled off. I got him in the chest. It did kill him, but it was different. I had tried to make the choice that I wasn't going to do it. But I guess in my background, I knew that I had to because he could have been coming at me with the next shot. And I knew I had to. But I knew that I didn't want to. But I knew I had to.
So as a sniper, was the order always to target the head as opposed to just eliminate the threat?
Yeah. Usually that, in your training, which was not a lot in my situation, you were taught to always take the headshot if you can. The first 5 I did. I mean, I don't want, but anyway, I guess
It was war.
It was.
That's what you're supposed to do in war.
And we were pursuing subjects that the CIA had handed us that you need to take this subject out. And that's what we were trained to do, and we did.
It's a high value target.
Yeah. They may not have been infantrymen, but they were people that were controlling a lot of what was coming back at us. North Vietnamese generals, colonels, whatever rank they were instructing their people that was under them to set up whatever they were told to do to take us out. And that was our objective. Take those people out, and it takes part of the liability away from us, because they're not there to give the orders, but somebody else could take up their position. And that's why we were told to take certain ones out. Then that was through the CIA's information and the intel that they had, like the colonel that we met the other night. That was his position. I mean, and it probably wasn't him because of the time frame. I think he was a little bit later than me, but we had other people that from Laos and Cambodia that had come into our part of the military through the CIA or whatever, that looking like a lot of North Vietnamese, they could get in to find out what needed to be done, and then they would feed that information back to us. And that was our objective, to take out the people that they had told us that needed to be taken out.
Did you learn your skills, your shooting skills, as a country boy, or did you learn them in boot camp?
As a country boy. I was raised on a farm out in the country. We had a 91-acre farm, and you know, a lot of times if you missed a shot, you didn't have supper. But I'm not bragging about being an excellent shot, but I guess I was more than mediocre because I had experience hunting, and it was just a way of life that you know, you grab your gun, you go kill supper, or you go kill a deer that will last, you know, whatever. But
that was one of the eye-opening things for me when I was interviewing veterans around the country. It was it became comical how many, say, were raised in the cities or the suburbs, but they always talked about their country, comrades. You know, they just had the shot. We always wanted to make sure we were surrounded by our country folk, you know, our country boys.
After I got out of the service, me and a couple of my cousins and my brother was deer hunting. And there was a tree that had mistletoe up in it right before Christmas. So everybody wanted some mistletoe. And everybody had shot and shot and shot, and nobody had hit it. And my cousin looked around at me and he said, "Well, you going to shoot?" And I said, "I'm just letting y'all get some practice." And he said, "Well, we're not going to hit it." I said, "Go ahead and see." And I pulled up the first shot, it fell out.
I love it.
And it didn't get away from me over the years anyway. But now, I mean, I've got rifles, I've got guns. I've got better optics now than I had back then. But
I bet.
I can still shoot.
I bet.
I can still shoot.
That's like riding a bike. You
never forget. I bought a new gun recently. It was a Browning, 30-06, and we put the optics on it, and we set up a target down across the hayfield, and 3 shots, and I had it zeroed in. Just bam, bam, bam. Of course, you laser sight first, and then from that, I had 3 shots, and I could put them in a quarter. And that's even with my bad eyes.
Probably a little intuition. What was it like for you coming home from Vietnam? Did you experience?
When we come into California, of course, we come in by plane, 12 hours, and got off the plane, went through the processing center. I didn't have any civilian clothes, not any. And I had to leave the processing center in uniform. I got a cab and went over to the airport to get a ticket home. And it was already dark, late. And I went up to the ticket counter and I told the lady that I needed a ticket to Nashville. And she said, well, your plane won't leave until 7 in the morning. I said, now I've got to go back out and find me a motel room to stay all night. She said, you're not going back outside. She said, you can go up in the balcony. Nobody will be up there all night. Fix you a place to get some sleep. She said, I'll be here all night and I'll watch and I'll wake you up in the morning in time for you to catch your plane. Well, I went up and turned some seats down and got ready to kind of get comfortable.
And why do you think she told you you're not going back outside?
It was because she knew what had been happening all over the years. Protesters on every corner. When we first got into California, they put us on a bus and I started over to the processing center, and the buses had 1/4-inch mesh wire on the outside of the windows. And I'm thinking, what is going on? I got on the bus, and when I got on the bus, I looked towards the back, and there was an armed MP at the back door. And I said, this don't seem right. And then I was kind of up towards the front of the bus, and then when we got loaded and the driver shut the door, another armed MP stepped up in the front. And I said, we just got back from a war, and here they are guarding us. They wasn't guarding us, per se, us. They were guarding us to keep off of the protesters, because if we'd have got off the bus, they'd have been a battle. And that's why they were there. They knew in advance that these kind of things could have happened, so they took precautions to keep us safe, to keep them safe, to keep down a rat.
Do you think the mesh on the outside of the buses, though, were to keep from having things be thrown in the bus?
They did throw tomatoes, eggs, rocks, whatever they had available, bottles, whatever. But the mesh, it was 1/4-inch mesh wire, and it did keep them breaking the windows out, and it kept the tomatoes, once they hit, from splattering all over us. And we were told later that every time they come and picked up a new plane load coming in, they had to wash the buses before they come back to get the next load. And it wasn't just our bus that was getting things thrown at, it was all of them. And I never did get spit on. Some did, and I didn't. And I made it a point to, I guess, kind of stay away from the center of everything that was going on. But back to the airport later on that evening, the lady at the checkout, at the ticket counter, come up, and she had a pillow and a couple of blankets. And I knew she cared. I knew she did. And once I got in Nashville, I kind of expected protesters to be there, but I didn't see any then. Of course, I had to go from the airport with a cab over to the bus terminal because I had the bus ride home. And when I got home, the bus terminal was on Main Street out of the drugstore building. And the bus broke down right before we got into town in front of the Chevrolet dealer. So I got off, and it was going to take a while to fix it, and I got off, and I told the driver, I said, throw my stuff off when you get up there. I said, I'm going to walk on up. When I got up to where I could see up to where the bus terminal was at, there was nobody on the street except my brother, my dad, and my mother, and Jean. And as I went by the store windows, I knew these people. I had done business with them before I went into service. They wouldn't come out and say anything. They walked up to the window and looked at me like I had some kind of dreaded disease. I guess maybe they had only related our war as to what they had seen on the evening news. I don't know how long that went on as far as them making a change, but it hurt.
Of course.
But it was emotional. We didn't spend a lot of time there. We got in the vehicle that was there, and I lived 12 miles from town, and Jean lived 2 houses down, and from where I lived. So we made the day of just getting reacquainted, and then I maybe late that evening or sometime during the day later on, I did see some relatives that were in the area that I lived in, and they were nice, nicer than the people in town. The people in town, it hit me different for some reason, that they didn't come out and say, "Oh, you're back," or that kind of thing.
Welcome home.
I had about 30-day leave from the time I left Vietnam until I had to go to my next duty station. Country store in the area that I lived in, and then I would go down there during the day. And I remember this one guy, older guy, and he had been in service earlier, not at the same time I was in, but before, maybe Korea or whatever it was. And I remember talking to him. This country store had an old pot-bellied stove, and everybody ganged around and talked, and we were just talking, and he looked up at me when I come in, and he said, "Well," said, "how many stripes did you get?" I said, 3. He said, "You got 3 stripes already?" And I said, "Yeah, it wasn't hard to make rank where I was at." And then I talked to him briefly, not for a great long time. A lot of people didn't want to. I guess they had been told that I wouldn't talk to them, and I probably wouldn't have in detail. But they didn't want to start the conversation about, well, how was it over there? What did you do? And that kind of thing. So they didn't say anything. It took some time to get you, and I think it was stated at the meeting on Monday night, we couldn't have a conversation with the people we went to school with that had never been in service, because we had aged a good number of years in 1 year. You don't think about that at the time it's happening, but then when you get back home and you see, oh, there's my old buddy Jim, or there's my old buddy Joe, or whatever, you can't carry on a conversation with them because they're still in the time frame that they were in while we were over there. We had advanced in a time frame that was way beyond the time frame they were in, and we couldn't talk to them. We couldn't carry on a conversation.
You just couldn't relate anymore.
No, just couldn't.
What was important to them was so trite for you.
Exactly. It's like I had done past what they were going through now, and I had done passed through that stage, but I really didn't experience it because I was that many miles away from home while they were here going through that time frame that they were in. It was just amazing that how time advanced for us as fast as it did.
Yeah, well, they always say you came back 15 pounds lighter and 15 years older.
Yeah.
Because you just matured so much,
yeah,
and you just grew up lightning fast.
We had to.
You had to survive. Yeah.
And we went over at 19. I did. I went over at 19, barely. I was 19 in September of '66, and I went over in April of '67. So we got about a 6-month span of me being 19, and I went from 19 through that year, 10, 15 years later. And it's just the fact that people here didn't relate that time as passing like it did for us because they wasn't involved like we were.
Right.
And you age fast. You really do. I've had people recently, Say, well, did you do drugs while you were in Vietnam? No, I didn't. Well, you drank a lot? No, I didn't. I did not do drugs the first time. I did not drink the first drop. And I've had people look at me and say, well, if you didn't do that, you wasn't over there. It makes you just want to smack them, you know, and bring them to their senses, really.
Right. But we won't do that.
No.
But that is how powerful Hollywood is.
Yeah.
You know, if the images that we're barraged with were portraying you in such a way, so many have it in their heads, that's the only way it was. And what I found in traveling the country for 2 years or more, interviewing hundreds of veterans who are in country, it's like 15 to 20% of people did drugs or drank.
They did.
But yet they were the ones that were constantly portrayed in the movies.
Yeah. And I go on Facebook about every night. That's my pastime. Once I get in and settle down and turn my TV on, I'll get Facebook out and start going. And there's a lot of pictures on Facebook that show pictures of people like me that were there then, and most of them is they've either got a cigarette in their hand with whatever it might be. They're sitting there drinking, and I did not let myself do that. I guess I had a sense of
survival.
Survival mostly, yeah. I was on call 24 hours a day, whether I was out front or back at base camp. I had to be where I could go at a moment's notice, and I didn't drink before I went into service. I didn't smoke, so that wasn't a thing I had to break myself from. I knew that if I wasn't capable of carrying on my duties when I was called on during the middle of the night or whatever, I didn't know what would have actually happened. Probably court-martial or 15, whatever. But I made myself available, so if I did get a call, and I did numerous times, I was there, I was ready, and I did what I was told to do. I didn't have to do it half intoxicated or high on whatever. But in a sense, those people that did do that, that was their way of coping with what they had already been through. I was still trying to deal with my time, and that may have caused some problems emotionally, because I didn't release anything that I had been going through until 2023. I kept it in the whole 50-something year. When I got out of the service, I did 5 months after I got back from Vietnam to finish up my 2 year. I knew I could get my old job back, and I went by the unemployment office and talked to the VA rep. I wanted to have a little better job, make a little more money, because by then I'd got married as soon as I come back from Vietnam, and I wanted to be able to support us a little better than from my old job. I went to the VA rep and I asked him, I said, well, I'm back from Vietnam and got out of the service. I said, do you have anything available? He said, I don't have anything at present, but he said, let me give you some advice. He said, if you try to get a different job on your own, do not put on your resume that you are a Vietnam veteran. You won't be hired. He said, even if you go back to your old job or get a different job, do not wear anything that will tell the people that you're working for that you are a Vietnam veteran. If you do, you'll be fired. Do not go to start. The Vietnam veterans in Cannon County have never had the recognition that you can give them through this book. I want to enhance that a little bit. And as far as sponsoring this event that we're planning, I'll do it myself. Financially, make the arrangements, I'll do it myself, because it's something that I want to do, because just seeing what you do going on the honor flight, it's opened up I guess, a wanting to do for other veterans, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
There you go.
I can
You'll
do
find
it.
it so rewarding, and maybe that will help you get rid of these nightmares.
Maybe.
Yep.
I went in for a psych appointment. It was just before the book come out, so it was probably a couple of weeks maybe prior to that. And it's like a video conferencing thing. She's in Murfreesboro and I'm in Tullahoma, and I went in and sat down, and she looked at me and she said, and this is a psychiatrist that I say, and I don't mind admitting that I do, because of, and I went in and sat down, and she said, Mr. George, she said, you look a lot better than you have before at our visits. She said, what is going on? And I said, well, since the honor flight, I told her about that. And I said, I have met the most wonderful person that I could have ever wanted to meet. I said, we've become real close friends. She's written this book, and I explained that to her, and she was going to read it. And I asked her if she could, and agreed with it, to recommend that her patients get a copy of that, because I said, it has helped me a lot. And she said, well, you do look a lot better. She lowered my medication. She said, I want to try this just because you look like you're doing better. She said, you pay close attention. If you can't tolerate it, you call me and I'll up it back up to where it was. I haven't had any trouble with it.
Good.
Not at all.
That is how I bill it, as the greatest story of vindication in our lifetime.
It is. And I had a gentleman come to me Saturday, and he said, I said, I didn't serve. But he said, I've read he said, I have read the book. And he said, I didn't realize what you had to go through. But he said, now I do. He said, you're my hero.
Good.
So if
is
you
it
want,
helping? Is it helping as far as maybe
it helps. It helps the nightmares quite a bit. The anxieties, and I lay a lot of that in what you're doing. That, oh man, that I can't thank you enough. I can't.
Well, it's my honor. My honor to be doing this. I'm so humbled that God chose me for such an important mission.
It's made a big difference in me. Even at church yesterday, this lady come up and she said, Mr. George said, you must be feeling better. Said, you look a lot better. I said, well, thank you. I said, I do feel better. I didn't get into any details or anything. It's amazing. See, before the honor flight, I'm saying, I didn't know there was any kind of release or help or whatever you might want to call it until the honor flight. And I'll never forget this, Susan. I'll never forget it. Every time we would go into an area that there were lines to welcome us and everything. Of course, I was in a wheelchair. You knew that. I mean, thanks to you, I made it. Every time we would go into one of those areas, I guess you could sense the fact that my anxieties were still there. Maybe I was expecting something to happen. You would reach up with your left hand every time, and you would squeeze me twice right on that left shoulder. That was probably to ensure me that everything was going to be okay, and it always was. I appreciate that. I really do. But it's been a long 58 year. Up to that point, it was 53 or 4, whatever it was. But it's been 58 years since I went into service. I dealt with all this for probably 54 or 5 years. The last 2.5 years changed. It's changed a lot. That's because of you.
It's because of him.
Yep. You are working
I'm
through
just an
him.
obedient servant.
Yeah.
But it's all his doing.
before I didn't know there was anything. Les got me tuned in to the honor flight, and I kind of filled out the application, and Lord, I'll never forget the way that happened. And you know as well as I do, we were both scheduled in September prior, and for some reason I know why I had to cancel. I don't know why you didn't go, but I had a heart procedure coming up. I had to cancel, and then I reapplied in April, and I think you did too. And the honor flight people, I had another heart procedure scheduled that we were supposed to go on the 20th of April. I had a procedure scheduled for the 1st of May, 10 days later. And when Paul called and said, we're scheduling to leave in the morning at 4 o'clock, I said, Paul, I don't know, I may have to just cancel again. I said, I got another heart procedure scheduled in 10 days. He said, no, you're not rescheduling. He said, there'll be 3 of you with a guardian. He said, your guardian is going to be Susan. And we hadn't met then, didn't even know each other. And he said, I'm going to assign a Marine medic and a Navy corpsman and 2 nurses will be close to you all day. He said, everything's going to be fine. He said, if something was to happen, they will take care of you till the emergency people get there. He said, it'll be fine. So I agreed to go ahead and meet them the next morning. And then about 10 minutes later, you called, introduced yourself over the phone, and said you were going to be the guardian, and you would meet us in Nashville. And you were right there. You were right there. That was an amazing day, and I'll never forget it. I had never imagined that it would have affected me like it did. Like I said, I was expecting protesters at every gate. They wasn't there. People were lined up down both sides of every entrance, every gate, and they wanted to shake her hand, but we didn't have time. So what do? You kind of just slap the hands as you go by and, kind of thank them as you go. But it was amazing. There's one person, and I don't know what her part was in being there. When we were going down into the Lincoln Memorial, we had the walkway, and they were lined up on both sides to welcome us down into that part of the monuments. This real well-dressed black lady stepped out about 10 feet in front of us, and of course you stopped. She come to attention, she put the salute, and she stood there till I returned it. I didn't know what her purpose was, and I didn't know what to expect. But once I returned her salute, she stepped aside and she said, and we went on down into the memorial. I seen her later that day at a different location. I don't know if she was like in the welcoming committee for different parts of the tour. I don't know, but I remember her, and I remember the gentleman that when we were going down into the wall entrance, and I noticed that people were going in front of us, and he was just handing out the pamphlets. And when you pushed me up to the entrance, he come to attention, saluted me, and he held it until I returned it. I don't know why, it was just me that he saluted, but it made a difference. It really did. The whole day was just wonderful.
And you had apprehension leading up to the day, correct?
Yeah, and I really didn't know what to expect from each place that we visited. But, and like I said in the last interview, I did not know what to expect. And I really expected somewhere down the tour that there was going to be at least one protester, but we did not see the first one, not the first one.
You didn't see any during the whole day?
We didn't see any.
Do you think you can put that now in your rearview mirror as something of the past?
Mostly, yes, mostly. It was quick. It was a fast day.
But packed a lot in.
We did. Yeah, we did.
I mean, Nashville airport early in the morning, fly to D.C.
Yeah.
Go all around all the memorials.
And I'd never been. I'd never been. And the name that I looked up, he was the only veteran that got killed in Vietnam from Cannon County. And I knew his family well. Matter of fact, Gene and his sister were real good friends in school. And none of his family had ever been able to go to the wall. That's the reason I wanted to look that name up.
And you got a rubbing too.
I did, and I got two. I've got one of them, and I brought the other one back and give it to his family because none of them had ever been.
That's nice.
So that give them a sense of knowing that he was honored on the wall just like all the other 58,479. But they really appreciated that.
Was that your first time to the wall?
That was my first time.
How much did that mean to you to know that there was a memorial there?
It's hard to explain. You can't look at it and not feel respect for those because they were there with you, a lot of them the same time you were there, a lot of them you served with. I forgot a lot of their names now. But it's just the fact that we had to lose 58,479 American soldiers. We did accomplish some stuff while we were in Vietnam. We fought against communism and the takeover of this country. But that was a plus. But it's just the fact that you're looking at a wall that's got 58,479 names on it that really didn't have to be there, but they had no choice. They were like me. They either enlisted because they felt the responsibility of defending the country. They were drafted, and then when they got in, they assumed that responsibility, like me and some of the others. But it's just the fact that 58,479 people don't have a family, never have kids, never have grandkids, a lot of them never have a wife, unless some of them did. I feel very fortunate. I really do.
Non-veteran hat.
Oh, my good luck hat. Well, of course, it's a Vietnam Veterans patch on it. The three ribbons that everybody goes in and gets, Vietnam Conflict, Vietnam Campaign, National Defense. This one is good conduct, and I did have good conduct. I never got an Article 15 or anything. This one is the one I'm most proud of. It's my Bronze Star ribbon. I got 2 Bronze Stars for Valor. That indicates these two, the Oak Leaf Cluster and the V for Valor. This one is the 25th Infantry Division. That's the division I served with. The 5th Mech Diamond is, I was in the 5th Mech before I went to Vietnam, and while I was in Vietnam, they had units that come there while I was in Vietnam. Some of these others are, I can't see it. Hang on. I hate to wear these things, but I have to sometimes.
You and me both.
This is the Vietnam of America. It's the life member of the Vietnam Veterans of America. I got that. When did I get that? June of 24. June of 24. You were there. And
where was that?
At McMinnville when you did the presentation.
Oh, okay.
And that's the night I joined the Vietnam Veterans of America.
Gotcha. Okay.
This one I got this past Saturday from Carl, and that's the United States of America just the salute with the inside with the symbol of the American flag. This one, I don't remember where I got that one. Where did I get that one? Did you give this one to me or not?
No.
I don't remember where I
Nope.
got it.
What's a handsome one? The eagle?
Well, it's
An eagle?
Vietnam Veteran War, eagle in the center symbol. I can't remember where I got it. But that's my good luck cap, I call it. I wear it about everywhere I go.
Have you always worn it?
No.
When did you start wearing it?
When we went to Washington. I think I did. Yeah, I had it on when we went to Washington. I made it a point to wear it when I went to Washington, so I had it on then. I've got 3 of these. I got when I had the Vietnam veterans patch put on. I had 3 of them put on there. So these ribbons are on the patch, but these I have to add as I change caps and some of the other stuff. But as long as I can, I'm going to wear that cap. Before the honor flight, I had the perception that I was just a Vietnam veteran. I didn't know at the time what that completely entailed as far as who I was. After the honor flight, it made me realize that it wasn't just something I did, it was actually who I was. And that's meant a lot to me, just to be able to say that. I'd never said it before. I never had. But as time goes on, and from where I live, I didn't know there was such a thing as an honor flight for years until last, and that was almost 4 years ago. And he assured me then that if you ever go one, you'll realize and some things that he had told me, and he was exactly right. It makes a world of difference. I would recommend to anybody that haven't had the experience to go. We always exchange greetings. Most of the time, it's we'll stop and if either one of us is not in a big hurry with family or whatever, we'll ask, when were you there and what unit were you with and that kind of thing, and then we'll shake hands and welcome each other home and then go on. And sometimes you don't get to stop and talk to them, but you exchange words while you're moving towards each other.
There's
shake
an
hands.
instant bond.
Yeah, it'll always be there. It always will. And I had an incident that happened back in the winter. I don't remember exactly the date. I was checking out at Walmart. I didn't have a lot of stuff. And I seen this lady standing over by the wall, and she was just standing there. And I kind of noticed her, as I was checking out. And when I got through checking out with stuff, I rushed to get my wallet to pay for what I had, and she stepped up and she said, "No, I'm paying today." I said, "Oh, ma'am, you don't have to do that." She said, "No, I want to do that." I have paid that forward to other veterans that I've seen. It's the first time I ever had anything like that to happen. And then later on, it's been recent trips to Walmart. There's an old lady that works in there, and most of the time, I'll get in her line. We've kind of got vaguely acquainted. So, and she'll always, thank me for my service and everything. And I don't know, maybe a month ago or whatever, I was in the checkout line and I got through checking out, and she said, "I thank you for your service." I said, "Well, I appreciate that." I said, "Thank you for noticing." She said, "I enjoy my freedom."
Amen.
Yeah. But most of the time, if you meet another veteran, we'll exchange a few words. I'm going to say probably 75% of the time when I'm at Walmart or wherever, at my Home Depot or whatever, there's always somebody that either haven't been in service or didn't serve in Vietnam that's always thanking me for my service, and I always acknowledge their appreciation. I really do. Because before, we didn't have that. We didn't have it.
When you needed it most.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of us out there that could have used it from the day we got back up till now, and like in my area, it just wasn't available. The people just didn't acknowledge it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I mean, they knew, but they only knew what they had seen on the evening news. Walter Cronkite at the time Vietnam was going on. What little they do know now is very limited, but this is really bringing it to light. This is what my third order of books that I'll pick up today. Matter of fact, I met some people Saturday. We had a thing at home. It's the Good Old Days event, and it happens every year. And I don't know how many people asked me about the book. Because I had put it on Facebook, and I'd put it on there about every morning. And they had asked me, where can I get one? I want one. Well, I was out. I said, well, rather than miss an opportunity to get it out, I would direct them to Amazon. You can get it off at Amazon, same price, $19.99, whatever. And Monday when we were at Nashville, the Laotian general, I can't think of his name.
KB, Kambang.
He come over and was talking to me, and he said, you were in my country. He considered Vietnam to be his country because it's like going from Tennessee to Kentucky.
Right.
And I said, no, I said, I wasn't in your part of the country, but I said, I was in Cambodia some and in Vietnam. He said, where? I said, Iron Triangle. He said, said, I know right where that's at. And you know the story about what he was doing for the CIA. And we did. I mean, I can remember it now that he brought it to my attention. We had to come in with a chopper and fly him out because these North Vietnamese put a price on his head. And that possibly saved his life. Ron, bless his heart, when me and the general was talking, he was at the next table over. You know where we were seated.
Yeah.
And when he leaned over and he said, he had heard me and the general talking about the Iron Triangle, and he leaned over and he said, were you in the Iron Triangle? I said, yeah, that's where I spent most of my time, was in the Iron Triangle. He said, you had it rough. Are you familiar with Iron Triangle? No. I'll show you in a minute. Okay. I spent most of my time in the Iron Triangle, a little bit right outside toward the Tay Ninh area. Well, let's pick up that, Ricky.
Yep.
Does it show the red lines?
Yep.
Okay, the Tay Ninh area, between that and the Dao Tang area, is where the Michelin rubber plantation is at. I spent not the most of my time in Dao Tang, but a good deal of my time. Usually I was in Cu Chi, which is down towards the Saigon area, but not down in Saigon. Saigon is where the Star is at, and that's where the Tan Son Nhut Air Base is at, where you can see the aircraft. Can you see them on there? But in relation to that, we were going in at Bien Hoa, which would have been just outside the Tan Son Nhut Air Base, but we got mortared before we got on the ground. We had already let the landing gear down and everything, and we had to go on down further south to Cam Ranh Bay, which it doesn't show in this picture. But most of the time I was in the Cu Chi area and Dao Tang, and would venture out to Tay Ninh once in a while. And then I ventured up and back. And at one point I got over into Cambodia just a little bit, not much, just a little bit. Have you ever seen the movie Platoon? Mm-hmm. That last scene in that movie was supposed to be in Bao Tang. It was, in Cambodia. At the time the movie was made, we were in Cambodia just a little bit. Oliver North is the writer. He served his time in Cu Chi, 25th. Oliver North and myself were in the same unit at the same time. He didn't stay but 5 months. He got shot up 3 times and they sent him home. He had a hard time finding a producer to produce the movie that he had written. He finally did it himself. I didn't really know him personally, but we were in that battle right at the end of the movie. It don't tell that in the movie, but there was 525 casualties. That was unfortunate for 520. Now that was North Vietnamese and us together. That wasn't just us, but there was 525 confirmed casualties in that one battle. Anytime you had a body count after whatever battle you were in, you always had a combined body count. Most of the time it would be separated. The Americans had this many, North Vietnamese had this many. But you always had a total body count of both sides. At least that's what I was told anyway. I had never heard of a body count that just had a one-sided body count. Sometime maybe on the news or whatever, they wouldn't tell both sides. They would just say the body count today in Vietnam was whatever. And it would always be different. Mm-hmm. But no, usually if you had a body count, you had both sides. Right. That got its name because that area is one of the areas that they sprayed the toxins heavily. I just happened to be there. They sprayed us. It run off of you like water. Get your ponchos out, they're going to spray. Well, and it's just, and you could, when they flew over, if you were in that particular area, you could see, it wasn't no C-130s and choppers, and they sprayed it right on top of us, which was to kill the foliage so we could see. We couldn't fight a war, we couldn't see the enemy, and you can buy that, I buy it all the time. It's nothing more than 2,4-D. That's all it is. It's 2,4-D and 2,4-T. And it was combined in that same drum. Now I use it all the time in spraying my hay ground and everything, but it's a lot weaker. It's strictly for broadleaf. Roundup will kill anything. Right. But it takes longer for Roundup to act than it does the 2,4-D. This ischemic heart disease, that's caused from it. Now, I've got a surgery coming up Friday, the 2nd. They put a device in, how long has it been? A couple of months ago now. But they're going to go back in and make sure that is in place, and that's caused from Agent Orange. If the heart has grown enough tissue around this device, then I'll get off a part of my medications. I think it's okay. I haven't felt anything that tells me that it's not. Then I've got a heart biopsy coming up. I've got to meet with a cardiologist tomorrow and find out when that's going to be. And supposedly it's going to be finished and back to the hematology department at Vanderbilt by the 6th, because all the other tests that he ordered has been done except that one, and he wants all 3 of them. And they think that this going on with my legs stems from the heart. Basically, it will tell them if it's that or not. It's called ATTR amyloiditis. I might not have pronounced that right, but that's close. If that's what it is, that will have been caused from Agent Orange exposure. There is a treatment for this type. It's 1 pill a day. Supposedly, this attacks the nerves in your body, and it could attack the nerves over the whole body, or it could attack just one part, which now it stems in the lower legs. I had a back surgery a year ago this past March that was supposed to correct it, but it didn't. And now they've been doing testing and everything since then. And this hematologist come up with that 3 weeks ago. And he said, I'm just certain. He said, everything we have done to find out what's causing that leans toward that. He said, I'm just almost certain, but he said, I need something documented before I do any kind of treatment. I don't want to be sick, but I want my strength back. This heart situation, I'd like to never got that recognized. I went to the VA, the first attack I had, I went to the VA cardiology department, and I was in the cardiologist's office, and I was doing it then, and I was telling him what was going on. He said, okay, so we'll get an EKG to be done. I said, okay, I thought it would be right then. He ordered that EKG to be done 34 days later. That night, I was in the ER at the hospital in Murfreesboro. The cardiologist come in and checked me, said, I'm gonna keep you overnight, see if you're stable by in the morning. He said, we'll have to do surgery in the morning. And they got me stable during the night. They did surgery the next morning. Since then, I've had 9 heart procedures. Friday, we'll make 10. The procedure for the biopsy will make 11 in less than 3 years. The VA is picking up the tab. Okay. I'm not going to the VA. I don't trust them. I can't. After that deal with their cardio, I can't trust them. If I had listened to him and waited 34 days to have a EKG done, I'd be dead. Because I had to go to the hospital that night and go through the ER and was admitted in surgery the next day. I'm enrolled in the VA's community care project. You can go anywhere outside the VA, show your VA card, they'll accept it.
When did that start?
Trump's first term. I had a meeting with Marshall Blackburn last year, county commissioner and everything, and we got off on the subject of the care the VA was getting, and she said, if you are enrolled in the VA's community care project, said you will have no problem. Said you just go into whatever facility, whatever doctor's office you choose, show them the card and tell them you're enrolled in the VA community care. Everything will be took care of. Now, all of these surgeries that I've had done, all of these tests that I've had done, would probably be in the millions. The VA has paid for. Now, let me rephrase that. The facilities that do the bills the VA and my private insurance. Both of them have taken care of it. Usually I'll get a statement from the VA in a few weeks after they've been billed telling me how much they were billed, how much they approved, and how much they paid, and then right out to the right of that it'll say veterans responsibility, 0. So financially they have took care of it. I just can't trust their doctors. I just can't. I can't make myself trust their doctors. The one that was going to put me off for 34 days, probably not even there now. But I just can't make myself trust them. I just can't. Knowing that would have happened then, It may not have happened. It may not never happen again. But I just can't make myself trust them. I just can't. I get my eye care done outside the VA. Of course, I wear glasses up close. Once I get the prescription from outside the VA, I go to the VA. I get my glasses. Doesn't cost anything. I've had good luck with that. They don't ever ask any questions. I just go in, hand the prescription. They pick out your frames, send it in about not over 2 weeks. I get my glasses in the mail. I've got 100% dental because I'm 100% disabled now. It took me 54 years, but I finally got it. I get the dental. I can get that through the VA. I don't. I go outside the VA, and the VA and my private insurance picks up the tab. I never have to pay anything for dental care. Of course, being 100%, you get a break on your property taxes. You get free license plates for one vehicle. I've got two. One of them is a disabled veterans, which doesn't cost me anything. The other one is my Bronze Star. Doesn't cost me anything. So I feel very fortunate for that to have happened. I didn't know that a Bronze Star got a free license plate for years. And another veteran told me about it, and I took my paperwork and went down to the clerk's office, and I said, I need to see about getting my license plate for a Bronze Star recipient. Oh, yeah, I said, it's back there on the shelf. I said, we've had it all these years. They had to call the state motor vehicles department to get the number reinstated because it had been so long, it just been laying back there.
Yeah. So when you got the Bronze Star?
That would be an individual decision that they would have to make, but I would urge them in any way possible, if it's in your heart to join the military to defend this country, that would be a smart move. There's risk involved. Now you don't have the draft, it would be strictly volunteer. If you love this country and your heart's in it, defend it, because we've got nowhere else to go that's any better. The American people, the majority, are great. They like their freedoms. Any other country don't have the freedoms that we have. Even today, they don't have it. But freedom has to be defended at all costs. It has to be defended. 3 years ago, I become a county commissioner at home. There's other offices that you could get into that would help the people in this country. And it's the younger generation that's going to have to take a stand and assume those positions to keep our country free. When I say free, I'm talking about the privileges that we have, not necessarily in the military, but congressmen, senators, county commissioners, county executives, whatever position you would choose to go into that would help our government in whatever way they might be asked to help. Saturday I was at an event, we have it every year. For what little that I have done in the last 3 years as being a county commissioner, I didn't know the people appreciated it that much until Saturday. I don't know how many come up and ask me to run again, which will be next year. Susan, just keep what you're doing. I support you 100%, and God bless America.